Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Thaddeus ascended the worn attic stairs, each creak under his weight a reminder of the secrets and memories stored above. The air, heavy with the scent of aged papers and forgotten treasures, enveloped him as he imagined the countless stories waiting to be uncovered. Sunbeams struggled through grimy attic windows, illuminating a place frozen in time. "Mom, where's the best spot to begin?" he shouted, his voice muffled by the close quarters and the humbling sight of archival mountains. His mother's voice, a delicate echo from the floor below, guided him. "Over there, dear. Start with those old trunks. I believe they hold remnants of my youth." Threading his path through the attic's clutter, Thaddeus negotiated carefully. He reached in and pulled out a powder blue cocktail dress, the material shimmering in the dim light. "Mom, I think I found your old clothes!" he called out, running his fingers over the smooth fabric. "Oh, those old things!" his mother laughed. "I'd forgotten all about them. Why don't you bring them down? We can decide what to do with them later." Thaddeus nodded, even though she couldn't see him. He carefully folded the dress and placed it back in the trunk, then continued sorting through the other boxes. But his mind kept wandering back to that powder blue dress. Hours later, after his mother had gone to bed, Thaddeus found himself drawn back to the attic. He told himself he was just double-checking their progress, but deep down, he knew why he was there. With trembling hands, he opened the trunk and pulled out the powder blue dress. Before he could talk himself out of it, Thaddeus slipped off his t-shirt and jeans. He carefully stepped into the dress, pulling it up over his shoulders. The zipper was a challenge, but he managed to get it most of the way up. Thaddeus turned to look at his reflection in an old, tarnished mirror propped against the wall. His breath caught in his throat. The dress hugged his body in a way that felt right, natural, like it belonged there. He ran his hands down the sides of the dress, feeling the texture of the fabric against his skin. For the first time in his life, Thaddeus felt truly comfortable in his own body. It was as if a missing piece had suddenly clicked into place. Over the next few months, Thaddeus found himself sneaking up to the attic whenever he had the house to himself. He explored more of his mother's vintage collection, trying on different styles and eras. Each time, that feeling of rightness grew stronger. One day, as he stood in front of the mirror wearing a floral sundress from the 1970s, a name popped into his head. Veda. It felt perfect, like it had been waiting for him all along. Thaddeus, now Veda in her mind, began to realize that this wasn't just about playing dress-up. This was who she truly was. But the thought of telling anyone, even her supportive mother, filled her with dread. Weeks passed, and the secret weighed heavily on Veda. She knew she couldn't keep living a double life forever. Finally, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, she gathered her courage and approached her mother in the kitchen. "Mom, can we talk?" Veda's voice quavered slightly. Her mother looked up from the cookbook she'd been perusing, concern etched on her face. "Of course, sweetie. What's on your mind?" Veda took a deep breath. I've been trying on your old clothes, the ones from the attic." Her mother's eyebrows raised slightly, but she remained silent, waiting for Veda to continue. "And I've realized something about myself. Something important." Veda's hands were shaking now. I think I'm transgender. I feel like I'm meant to be a woman, and I'd like to go by Veda from now on." There was a moment of silence that felt like an eternity. Then, to Veda's surprise and relief, Her mother stood up and wrapped her in a tight hug. "Oh, honey," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for trusting me enough to tell me. I love you, no matter what. Veda is a beautiful name." Veda broke down in tears, all the pent-up fear and anxiety releasing in a flood of relief. Her mother held her, stroking her brown hair and murmuring words of love and acceptance. From that day forward, Vada's mother became her biggest supporter and ally. They went through the vintage collection together, with her mother sharing stories about each piece and helping Vada build her own wardrobe. "This powder blue dress," her mother said one afternoon, holding up the very first dress Vada had tried on. "I wore this to my senior prom. I think it suits you better than it ever did me." Vada blushed, running her hand over the familiar fabric. "It's special to me. It was the first one I tried on." Her mother smiled knowingly. "Then it's yours now. Consider it the start of your own collection." As the weeks passed, Vada's confidence grew. Her mother taught her how to apply makeup, starting with the basics and moving on to more advanced techniques. They spent hours in front of the bathroom mirror, laughing at mishaps and celebrating small victories. "The key to good eyeliner," her mother said, demonstrating with a steady hand,
"is practice, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. It all washes off at the end of the day."
Vada nodded, carefully mimicking her mother's movements. She was getting better, but it still felt like a learning curve. One Saturday, Vada's mother surprised her with a shopping trip. "It's time we got you some clothes that really fit," she said with a wink. They spent the day going from store to store, trying on different styles and sizes. Vada felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, especially when interacting with sales associates, but her mother was always there, a steady presence by her side. In one boutique, Vada fell in love with an emerald green blouse. As she admired herself in the fitting room mirror, her mother knocked gently on the door. "How does it look, sweetie?" Vada opened the door, beaming. "I love it, Mom. It feels... me." Her mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You look beautiful, Vada. Truly yourself." They left the store with the emerald green blouse and several other pieces. As they walked through the mall, shopping bags in hand, Vada felt a sense of freedom she'd never experienced before. At home, Vada modeled her new clothes for her mother, twirling in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom. The emerald green blouse paired perfectly with a black skirt they'd found, creating a sleek, sophisticated look. "You know," her mother said, watching Vada admire her reflection, "I have some jewelry that would go beautifully with that outfit. Wait here." She returned a few minutes later with a small, velvet-covered box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small emerald pendant.
"This was your grandmother's,"
her mother explained, fastening it around Veda's neck.
"I think she'd be proud to see you wearing it now."
Veda touched the pendant gently, overcome with emotion. "Thank you, Mom, for everything." Her mother squeezed her hand. "You're my child, Vada. All I've ever wanted is for you to be happy and true to yourself." As Vada continued to explore her identity, she found herself facing new challenges. The first time she wore makeup out of the house was nerve-wracking. She kept touching her face, convinced everyone was staring at her. "Hold your head high," her mother advised. "You look stunning, and you have every right to be yourself." Slowly but surely, Vada began to integrate her true self into her daily life. She started growing out her brown hair, experimenting with different styles. Her mother taught her how to use hot rollers and straighteners, laughing as they navigated the learning curve together. "I burned myself so many times when I was your age," her mother admitted, showing Vada how to wrap a strand of hair around the curling iron. "You're already doing better than I did." One evening, as they sat in the living room watching old movies, Vada's mother turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I think it's time we updated your room to match the new you. What do you think?" Veda's eyes lit up. "Really? That would be amazing!" The next day, they dove into the project with gusto. They painted the walls a soft lavender, hung sheer curtains, and rearranged the furniture to create a more open, feminine space. Veda's mother even surprised her with a vanity table, complete with a lighted mirror. "Every woman needs a space to get ready," she said with a wink as they set it up. As they worked, Vada found herself opening up more about her journey. "I always felt different," she admitted as they hung fairy lights around her bed. "But I never had the words for it until I tried on that first dress." Her mother nodded understanding. "Sometimes we need to see ourselves in a new light to understand who we truly are. I'm just glad you felt safe enough to share it with me." The room transformation took several days, but when it was done, Vada felt like she truly had a space that reflected her true self. She sat at her new vanity, running a brush through her brown hair, and smiled at her reflection. For the first time, the person looking back at her matched how she felt inside. As Vada became more comfortable in her identity, she began to wonder about the next steps. One evening, as they sat in the kitchen sharing a pot of tea, she broached the subject with her mother. "Mom," she began hesitantly, "I've been thinking about medical transition, hormones and stuff." Her mother set down her teacup, giving Vada her full attention. "That's a big step, sweetie. Have you done some research?" Vada nodded. "A little, but it's overwhelming. There's so much information out there, and I'm not sure where to start." Her mother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Well, the first step would be to find a doctor who specializes in transgender healthcare. We can start looking together, if you'd like." Tears welled up in Veda's eyes. "You'd do that with me?" "Of course, honey. We're in this together, remember?" Over the next few weeks, they researched doctors and clinics in their area. Vada's mother helped her compile a list of questions and concerns to bring up during consultations. When the day of the first appointment arrived, Vada was a bundle of nerves. "What if they don't believe me?" she fretted as they sat in the waiting room. "What if they say I'm not trans enough?" Her mother took her hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "You are who you are, Vada. No one can take that away from you. And if this doctor isn't a good fit, we'll find another one. Okay?" Vada took a deep breath and nodded. "Okay. Thanks, Mom." To Veda's relief, the doctor was kind and understanding. They discussed the effects of hormone therapy, the timeline, and the potential risks. By the end of the appointment, Vada felt more confident about moving forward. As they left the clinic, Vada's mother turned to her with a smile. "I'm so proud of you, sweetie. You're so brave." Vada blushed, tucking a strand of brown hair behind her ear. "I couldn't do this without you, Mom. Really." That night, as Veda got ready for bed in her lavender room, she caught sight of herself in the vanity mirror. She was wearing a soft cotton nightgown, her brown hair loose around her shoulders. For a moment, she just stared at her reflection, marveling at how far she'd come. A gentle knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Her mother peeked in, smiling. "Just wanted to say goodnight, sweetheart." Vada turned, returning the smile. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course." Do you ever miss Thaddeus?" Her mother was quiet for a moment, then crossed the room to sit beside Vada on the bed. "Honey, Thaddeus was never really gone. You're still you, the same kind, intelligent, wonderful person you've always been. You're just finally able to be your true self. And that's the greatest gift a parent could ask for." Vada leaned into her mother's embrace, feeling a profound sense of peace. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, Vada. Always." As the months passed, Vada continued to grow and evolve. She started hormone therapy, documenting the changes in a journal her mother had given her. They celebrated each milestone together. The first time Vada noticed her skin softening, the gradual changes in her body shape, the day her voice began to shift. One afternoon, as they were going through more of the vintage clothing collection, Veda's mother pulled out a beautiful emerald green evening gown. "I wore this to a charity gala years ago," she said, holding it up. "I think it would look stunning on you." Veda ran her hand over the silky fabric, admiring the intricate beadwork. "It's gorgeous, Mom. But where would I wear something like this?" Her mother's eyes twinkled. "Well, as it happens, that same charity is holding another gala next month. What do you say we go together?" Veda's heart raced with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "Really? But won't people talk? I mean, they knew me as before." Her mother took Veda's hands in hers, looking her directly in the eyes. "Sweetheart, you are a beautiful, confident woman. Anyone who can't see that isn't worth our time. But I think you'll find that most people will be supportive. And I'll be right there with you, every step of the way." Tears welled up in Vada's eyes as she nodded. "Okay, let's do it." The weeks leading up to the gala were a flurry of preparation. They had the emerald green gown altered to fit Vada perfectly. Her mother taught her how to walk in heels, laughing as they practiced up and down the hallway. "It's all in the hips," her mother advised, demonstrating with an exaggerated sway. "And remember, slow and steady wins the race." On the night of the gala, Vada stood in front of her full-length mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The emerald green gown hugged her curves, accentuating her figure in all the right places. Her brown hair was styled in elegant waves, and her makeup was flawless, the result of hours of practice and her mother's patient guidance. Her mother appeared in the doorway, resplendent in a deep burgundy gown. "Oh, Veda," she breathed, her eyes filling with tears. "You look absolutely breathtaking." Veda turned, her own eyes glistening. "Thank you, Mom, for everything. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Her mother crossed the room and enveloped her in a careful hug, mindful of their makeup and hair. "You've always had this strength inside you, sweetie. I'm just glad I could help you find it." As they descended the stairs together, Vada felt a surge of confidence. Whatever happened at the gala, she knew she had the unconditional love and support of the most important person in her life. The gala was a whirlwind of lights, music, and conversation. At first, Vada clung close to her mother, nervous about interacting with people who had known her before. But as the evening progressed, she found herself relaxing, even enjoying the attention. Many of her mother's old friends were surprised but supportive, complimenting Vada on her appearance and asking thoughtful questions about her journey. A few seemed uncomfortable, but true to her word, Vada's mother smoothly steered them away from any awkward situations. As they swayed together on the dance floor, Vada's mother leaned in close. You're the belle of the ball, sweetie. I'm so proud of you. Veda smiled, feeling truly at peace for the first time in her life. Thank you, Mom, for everything, for accepting me, supporting me, loving me unconditionally. Her mother's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. Always, Veda, always. As the night drew to a close, Vada realized something profound. The journey she had begun that day in the attic, trying on that powder blue dress, was far from over. But with her mother by her side, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They left the gala arm in arm, their emerald green and burgundy gowns shimmering under the streetlights. Veda took a deep breath of the cool night air, feeling a sense of possibility she'd never experienced before. Ready to go home? Her mother asked, giving her arm a gentle squeeze. Veda nodded, a soft smile playing on her lips. Yes, she said, her voice filled with confidence and hope. I'm ready for whatever comes next. As they drove home, the city lights twinkling around them, Vada reflected on how far she'd come. From that first moment of discovery in the attic to this night of celebration, every step had been a journey of self-discovery and love. She glanced at her mother, who was humming softly along with the radio, and felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Whatever the future held, Vada knew she would face it with courage, grace, and the unwavering support of the woman beside her. The emerald green gown rustled softly as Vada settled into her seat, a tangible reminder of the beautiful transformation she had undergone. As they turned onto their street, Vada felt a sense of coming home, not just to the house they shared, but to herself. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but for now, Vada was content. She was Vada. She was loved, and she was finally, truly herself.
Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.